bottom line is consistency, and in order to get the consistency, you have to think consistently. That's where the score system comes in, and being able to manage your thoughts, especially when you're not performing, which is harder, I think, than when you are performing. Just being able to keep those things in balance and go day to day with those in balance when there's all kinds of variables all around you, whether it be things you can control or things you can't control.
Welcome to the Living in the Zone podcast. I'm your host, ZoneCoach Jim Fannin. I've coached champions in life, business, and sports for 50 years with a proprietary thought management system that I discovered called SCORE. Every guest on this show has been in what we call a zone state, a purposeful, calm feeling where nothing can go wrong, and you're performing at your highest level. Today we welcome Jake Eder, a left-handed pitcher for the Chicago White Sox who made his big league debut this year during the last 2 weeks of the season. In college, Jake played a key role in the University of Vanderbilt's 2019 College World Series run, throwing the last pitch for the final out. And in 2020, he was rated the top minor league pitcher in baseball. Now, with his first big league outing under his belt, we dive into the mindset of what it takes to overcome adversity. It's here right now on Living in the Zone.
Jake Eder, welcome to Living in the Zone. So, Jake, Chicago White Sox pitcher. You've had a storied career already from Vanderbilt National Championship team. Got drafted by the Marlins, had an injury, Tommy John. That was not enjoyable. And the Tommy John was right after you were leading the minor leagues in ERA and strikeout leader, etc. So, Jake, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here, and I'm excited about what's going to transpire 2025. Welcome to Living in the Zone.
Yes, thank you, as always, for having me on.
So, when you got called up, you were in AAA Charlotte, because every professional athlete in baseball wants to make it to the show. And the players call it the show. I'm in the show. When you got called up, how was your mindset at that point?
I mean, open-minded and just going into it, with the same mindset that we've had since day one. Just keeping it simple, focusing on what I can control and going out and being accurate and pounding the zone. And that was, as simple as we kept it, really.
Starting pitcher, left-handed, four-seam fastball, 95, 96, or 97, slider, nasty, changeup, nasty, sweeper, not hittable. You have all the tools. But when you come to a club, and you've been on a couple of clubs now, you were at the Marlins. They weren't leading the league in wins. You're now with the White Sox. They led the league in losses. How difficult is it for you to stay in a zone state being with a team that's not in the zone? Was that a challenge? Was that easy transition?
I mean, I don't think it's easy. I think it's easier for me just because of, how we've trained and how that's kind of how we've been doing it all along. So, to really, it didn't feel like anything changed for me. I just kind of packed up and brought all our routines that we, have always had just, to Chicago. So yeah, I mean, the atmosphere and the vibe and stuff can It could affect that if you let it. But really, I was just focused on me and what I could control, and taking it one day at a time, and staying in the moment. So,
well, let's talk about some of that training, and maybe for everybody watching and listening, let's look behind the curtain. And what kind of training are you actually doing? I'll just start it off to kind of frame it. One of the first things that you've done is you've mastered the art of self-awareness. And what that means is you're aware when you're negative. You're aware of your inner dialogue. Most people aren't. And you also can focus in baseball, but when you leave that arena, you can leave it and then go be a son or a brother, a boyfriend for social, whatever, and you're able to put things in their own containers. Is that true? How's your thought management over the last 3 years?
I mean, it's been at a high level. That was one of the first things we worked on, and because that was something I struggled with in college, and before that was having all those thoughts spill over into all the other parts of my life. So, like you said, like the awareness of it is really the main part of it, and then being able to execute that plan based on that. But in general, I have done a really good job of leaving it at the field, and then closing that chapter and opening something else up when I'm not. Obviously, I haven't been perfect, which that's, we always talk about. You don't have to be, you don't want to be, but just being able to contain it to the best of your ability at a pretty high level is key.
I think one of the hallmarks so far of your career is that your focus is not to be perfect, not to go out and throw a perfect game. I'm going to throw a no-hitter today. You don't even have those thoughts. Your goal every game is to hit a high standard. And that's first pitch strikes, getting ahead in the count, being efficient, staying out of the past. You've been really exemplary. But if we pull the curtain back and let everybody really understand how much you put into this, the second big thing you've worked on is the power of visualization. And as humans, we all visualize, if I'm hungry, I'll visualize fried chicken or a salad, or I'll visualize it first, and then I'll go out and get it and procure it. So visualization is there for everybody, but you've taken visualization to another level. Did you proactively visualize in college or high school or even younger?
Not proactively. I always did it. Because I've always been a visual thinker, where I see things in my head, as a picture and as a story kind of deal. I always did that, but not with intention, not on purpose, and not necessarily seeing things the way I wanted it to be. It could have been, negative visualization that I, wasn't fully aware of what I was doing. So no, I didn't purposely do that until I read your book, until we started working together.
We started working together, I think it was 2001, August maybe, or July.
2021.
2020?
Yeah.
Boy, time flies. I forgot. I left out a year there. And you and I hit the ground running. I remember the very first pro game you ever had, you had 12 strikeouts. I remember you had bases loaded and got yourself out of it. So I got to see Jake Eder calm, cool, under duress, under adversity. But all of our training is designed to prepare you for stress in a positive way. Your self-discipline really changed in 2020. All these routines came in play. You want to share some of those routines with everybody?
Yeah. And I think to your point, I believe I always had the discipline. I just didn't necessarily know how to channel it, didn't know how to use it properly. So then, yeah, when we started working together, the first thing we ever worked on was breathing, and that became a part of my routine every day, just being aware of my breathing.
Well, let's discuss that. The average guy's got about 15, 17 breaths, and if you panic and get frustrated, breathing to go up 20 breaths a minute. Peak performance is 6 to 8. I know the first week I had you set your alarm every hour. I think that was day one. Every hour your alarm would go off. It sometimes surprise you, because you kind of forgot about the alarm. And as soon as it went off, what would you do when the alarm went off?
Just lower my breathing, get it down, and just practice being able to get it down on the spot.
Instantly.
Yeah.
So you would unhinge your jaw, breathe through your diaphragm, and just slow everything down. How long did that take you to do that?
I think I picked it up quick.
But how many seconds when the alarm goes off?
Yeah.
How long is the process?
I would say within a few breaths, like I can get it down, and like depending on the situation, obviously, if I'm doing something where running, for example, where my heart rate's way up, and it may take a little bit longer, but in a relaxed setting, or even when you're on the mound, because that's not, cardiovascular where you're breathing heavy, right away, basically, within a breath.
So the alarm would go off every hour. You would immediately react to it like Pavlov's dog. The bell rings, that dog gets food. Bell rings, dog gets food. Bell rings, there's no food, and then the dog salivates. So you actually trained yourself to have a relaxing reaction to an expectation that didn't meet your reality. So you have a perfect pitch, guy hits it off the end of the bat, and then the fielder misplays it, and a run score. You can easily roll your eyes and get ticked off and be a victim of a lucky hit and a victim of poor defense. You don't have any of that, do you?
It's always a work in progress. It's easy to, in the moment, have that knee-jerk reaction, but like we've also talked about, the awareness of it is really what allows you to bring it back to that, to neutral, and sort of process it under stress in real time.
So the second thing you and I worked on and still work on is the power of visualization. So task visualization, just throwing a four-seamer low and away to a righty or up and away to a righty. We've done that quite a bit. But we've also had the same situation, the same task of throwing that four-seamer up and away in a situation, big game, preparing for it. That when the big money's on the table, the next move dictates whether they're going to win or lose a series or win or lose a game. You just execute the basics. So breathing low, below 10 breaths a minute, that's pretty much a constant, right?
Yeah, it needs to be.
Have you incorporated that in other things in your life so that you're living in the zone? You don't just do it for baseball. Do you do it for...
Recently, golf has been my training method for my breathing. Being that it's not my sport, but because I've performed, at times at a high level at it, I know what I can do. So it makes it easy to have that reaction, when you slice it off into the water or something. So it's a perfect.
That's a little 5-second rule. You're only as great as the 5 seconds after every shot but
right.
It's also after every pitch.
So it makes an opportunity to practice that just like you would in a game.
You know what's amazing is you're obviously a great athlete, and or you wouldn't be a professional athlete. You're a great athlete, talent-wise, but you've actually reduced your handicap, which you were shooting over 100, which is not world class, and then now you've gotten it down into the 90s with no change in your swing, no technical changes, just managing self-discipline, concentration, optimism, relaxation, enjoyment, managing the score system. Just by doing that, you actually shot an 89. That's impressive. So do you have the mindset of a pro golfer without the technique, of course?
Yes.
Do you think you have that mindset already?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, it's because it's not going to be any different than being on the mound in that mindset. I mean, in ways it is, but when it comes to the score and balancing that and keeping your thoughts at a minimum and all that, it's the same.
Jake, every professional athlete in every sport, they're all good. You're good. You're a good athlete, good pitcher. How do you go from good to great? And what's been the biggest help or transition toolbox that's helped you do that? Help get you to the show, get you on the team, starting rotation, and then going and doing your thing for the White Sox. What's a difference maker for you?
Yeah, I think obviously the bottom line is consistency, and in order to get the consistency, you have to think consistently, and that's where the score system comes in, and being able to manage your thoughts, especially when you're not performing, which is harder, I think, than when you are performing, and just being able to keep those things in balance and go day to day with those in balance when there's all kinds of variables all around you, whether it be things you can control or things you can't control.
Do you think the score system, which is a collection of tools and techniques, do you think it's giving you an edge over the competition?
Yeah, definitely, because when you become aware of your own thoughts and how you're thinking, you also can kind of be aware of how other people are thinking, and so you can see how when someone else is struggling, you can see how that kind of reflects in how he's thinking and how he's managing his thoughts and his score level. So yeah, you can, by doing that, you can see how you have that influence over others and how just you personally are performing.
You've reduced your thoughts 30, 40, maybe even 50%. Is that a true statement?
Since we started working together, yeah.
And when you've lowered your thoughts up to 50% of what most people do and 50% of what you've done all your life, has that opened up any intuition, any sixth sense? Because I know when you have less thoughts, intuition is a little more to the forefront. How have you been able to tap into intuition, which helps you have an advantage versus a hitter?
Yeah, I think in most cases when I've had that happen, I've been on a zone run, as you would call it, where I've strung together 3, 4, 5, 6 pitches where it's just kind of been automatic. I'm not thinking about anything, and I'm just attacking. And that's when my catcher will call something, and before he even called it, I'll already know what I wanted to throw. Whether that's what he called or not, whether I have to shake off to another pitch, I'll already have the grip in my hand before I've even stepped onto the mound, knowing exactly what I'm going to throw. And that's just something probably that I picked up from the hitter. I know
it's almost like when you get into that zone state and you're present, a vibe just pops into your head. Throw a changeup, and the catcher's put down a four-seamer, and maybe you already had it, but with that changeup grip already. Have you ever violated that? Have you ever had a positive vibe and go, I'm going to throw a changeup, and you went, I'll just go with a four-seamer. That's what he wanted, and then the guy hits a jack on you or something.
I have. It almost always results in
Lord.
Not many times, but a couple of times I've had a grip thinking like before the sign gets called, I want to throw a slider here, and then just say he calls a fastball, and I say whatever, and I throw a fastball, and it almost always ends up being a hit. Yeah, but in general, for the most part, I haven't violated it, and it's just a feeling that, like, that when I throw this fastball here, it is going to work.
So when it whispers, that little voice, you're more in tune now to tell me what to do. Whisper. I wish it'd yell at us. That'd be great. Throw a slider, but it doesn't do it like that. It's just
right.
Slider.
And it does only happen when you're on one of those runs where it's not. You throw 2-3 balls in a row and you're sort of thinking about yourself. You're not going to feel that way. You're not going to get that. But when you're on that run, and
so the key for you then is just to take your energy and send it and put it on him, the hitter. And if he's thinking about himself or he's blowing his breath, rolling his eyes, you got him, don't you? Are there some hitters that come up, you just know you're going to sit them down? And are there other hitters that may come up, you're like, man, even though you may have a 80-20 chance of beating him, you have a feeling it's 50-50 because of who it is? Have you experienced that?
For me, it's never that way. I typically don't know who's in the box. What it is more.
Do you care?
No, for me, it's never had to do with who's in the box. It's just whether if my energy's on me and I'm thinking about something mechanically or something like that, then that's when I get into a disadvantage. Has nothing to do with the hitter, and then when my energy's going away from me and I'm attacking, and I know that, I just blew a fastball by this guy, and I'm going to do it again right here, and I know I'm going to do it. That's when, So it's always been more about me than them. I've never felt that way about a hitter being in the box.
So if we go back to your life, are you spending less thoughts and other things in your life? Is this across the board, or is this only baseball that you've lowered your thoughts?
It's across the board. Although I would say I never really overthought in other arenas, because everything would just spill over from the baseball arena. So that was pretty much the only thing that I would think about and overthink about. So I feel like that hasn't been difficult for me, because it was kind of never like that. So, but obviously having the awareness of it, still makes it easier.
So Jake, the woman with the most constants in a game of variables, and baseball has a lot of variables, that person will prevail. I know you're prepared before you get out on the mound. I know every one of your preparation routines. I think they're exemplary. I also know that you're prepared to adjust and adapt. But you do something else that I think everybody watching and listening, you need to do in your own life. You literally evaluate. You analyze. You take an assessment, a pitching assessment. Every single game that you've pitched, and if you're out, let's say in the 6th inning, I get a call from the dugout, and we evaluate and treat winning and losing as imposters. We treat them the same. How did you start? How was your self-discipline? How was your concentration? How was your confidence? When did it waver? What were the variables? What zone breakers happened? Luck, umpire making bad calls. How did you handle that? But you've done that assessment after every game since 2000. That is a true statement. Is that not true? An evaluation?
Mm-hmm. It is true.
So how has that worked out for you? And when you have that evaluation, does that help you really? Do you have things to take into the next week to get better at? Tell me about that process, and how long is our evaluation?
Yeah, usually 10 minutes, I would say on average, 10 to 15 minutes. But, I think the bottom line with our evaluations are just being brutally honest about what happened, and not sugarcoating anything, not being emotional with it. So that way we can take what we've learned and then, apply it to the next outing. But then I also think that, for me, it's been a way to, kind of close the book on it. And, especially on one that, the outcome wasn't, what I wanted, rather than, dwelling on it and having it carry over to the next day or potentially the next week. Just being able to close it out, figure out what we
You've done a good job at that, haven't you?
Yeah. Which is something that I wasn't good at previously, and that would kind of, eat at me throughout a week or throughout even a whole season. So yeah, being able to find what we learned, close the book on it, and have a positive day the next day has been key, I think.
Yeah, and the evaluation is without emotion, which is not easy, especially if it's really a tough outing that didn't go your way. But you've done that. Pretty amazing to have a very non-emotional, objective assessment evaluation, and learn from it. And of course, when you learn, Jake, you never lose. I see young athletes that they'll do great and not evaluate. Well, I think that's a mistake. They'll do poorly. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. That's an outlier. I'd like to just forget about it. And you haven't done that. And you've done this in the most professional way. You own your crap, so to speak, if I can be so blunt. If you threw 4 pitches out of the zone to walk a guy, okay, it's right there. You got to own it, understand why, and then move on. Yeah, you've done that exemplary. And I think that's going to serve you well in 2025. Prepare to adjust, prepare to not think a lot, just make that adjustment, make some intuitive adjustments, and then evaluate consistently. And I'm excited about that. Living in the zone. It's the name of our show, but that's really what it's all about. Can you live in that purposeful, calm realm where everything is possible? One of the first things we did in 2000 was develop and create a life blueprint. Tell me about that master blueprint for your life.
Yeah. So we broke it all down in different arenas. My main arena obviously being baseball, where, the majority of my time and thoughts are, but all the other arenas in life also that, whether it's being a son, like you said, being a brother, any hobby, fishing, whatever I like to do off the field, golf, whatever. And having those mapped out, just like my baseball arena, so that, when I'm not in my baseball arena, I can be in those arenas and be in the zone the same way, and be balanced throughout.
You've treated these arenas, no different than your baseball arena, your brother arena. You got an awesome brother who's in college, and you all are best friends, definitely. But you actually have a vision for that arena, and you have corresponding goals for that arena. And you do that for personal finance, for being a son, being a brother, being a friend, side business, a few things you're interested in, projects, if you will. You've got that blueprint, and you've had it since 2001, but it's a living, breathing document that keeps adjusting to you. How often do you look at that blueprint during the year?
I look at it not every single day, but at least 4 times a week, sometimes more. And I just to visualize it and to see it. And then I make changes to it, not as often as that, but just whenever I want to, or whenever I need to. But yeah, I look at it quite a bit, and mostly just to see it and to visualize it.
The other thing that you've done behind the curtain, really, with me, I'll just throw it out, although I definitely know the answer. How often have you and I visualized since 2020?
Every day, a fair amount of days, twice a day, since 2020, which
it's kind
is
of relentless. So, Jake, this blueprint, it's a permanent document. It's an ever-evolving document. You have it on your phone. When I talk to you, I'm able to look on my phone and see your blueprint. And so everything we do is to manifest the blueprint, the visions, the goals, the tasks. But we visualize every day. Let's kind of walk everybody through typically what that is. I mean, first thing, you get into a really deep, serious, relaxed mindset. And how long does that take? With all the training we've done, that's quick.
10 seconds, 15 seconds, or less.
15 seconds. The other thing that you've done extremely well is the subconscious does not know the difference between fantasy and reality. Now, some people watching and listening to this are going to go, what? The subconscious mind, which controls all my body functions, doesn't know fantasy from reality. That's why you wake up with during the night with a nightmare, and my heart's beating, I'm sweating. So my body thinks, there's a guy chasing me with a knife. In my mind, it doesn't know fantasy from reality, so it activates my body in reaction to what I put on my mind. And so when we start these visualizations, it usually takes 10 or 15 minutes. Correct?
Yeah, just depending on how, how many innings we're throwing or pitches or whatever.
So sometimes we'll throw just 4 same fastballs. Sometimes you'll work visually over and over and again with your sweeper. But the thing that you do so well is that you hear the pitch, you feel the pitch. There's even incorporating the smells of the game, rosin bag, cut grass on the field. How real are your visualizations when we do this?
I'm usually able to make them pretty real, and I remember telling you not long ago that when I was out in the bullpen in San Diego, because it was like a playoff atmosphere, and every pitch, every hit, fans were, crowd noise was up and down, and people going crazy. I was able to kind of mimic that, or actually I was closing my eyes and visualizing during the game, like while that was going on, but then I was able to take
another guy's pitching, but you're visualizing that you're pitching in real time.
Yeah. And then being able to kind of remember that atmosphere, that the sounds, and kind of bring those into visualization too. So Yeah, and it's real because when you're out there, when I'm out there in the bullpen, the phone could ring and I could be in the game, so your heart rate's already elevated, and it's almost like it almost feels like are in the game in a way. So you can really mimic it pretty well that way. So it's pretty cool.
So every day you get your breathing down to 6 to 8. You get very relaxed, and you visualize your craft. Throwing a baseball to well-defined targets with late-breaking, good, nasty stuff, hopefully. And you do situations. You pitched against the Yankees in your mind, going through Stanton and Judge and Soto and Rizzo. So you visualize that. But you dress rehearse also every day for the next day. Never have a day you haven't already had. So if you're going to work on something tomorrow, like finishing a pitch, maybe, I just want to work on finishing, you'll visualize doing that today so that you incorporate it tomorrow. Is that how we've done that?
Yeah, it is. That's how we've done it, and it just it puts it fresh in your mind, and that way the next day when you go out and physically do it, it's the first thing on your mind. You feel like you've already kind of been working on it.
Every Sunday, and we've had many Sundays. We've had 200 Sundays that you and I have experienced together, talking on the phone or being in person. But every Sunday, without fail, never have a week you haven't already had. Typically, you're off on Monday, at least you were in AA, AAA, and even in the bigs, I think Monday's an off day for some teams. Sometimes it's Thursday. Correct?
No, it just depends on when your travel day falls. It could be any day, really.
Any day, yeah, travel day. What a day off! I'm traveling to Seattle. That's my day off time. But every Sunday you visualize on a macro level everything you want to accomplish. Never have a week you haven't already had. And we've done that for a couple of hundred Sundays. Being prepared for the week, and then right after that, then you get ready to see what you're going to do the next day. What if the next day you want to go fishing? Do you visualize having a day off?
To a degree, I mean, I think more so it's just like if that's going to be my day off, it's just committing to that being a day off and not thinking anything about baseball and just getting into whatever it is that I want to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be planned, and in the most cases it hasn't been planned. It's just I'll wake up and say I want to go play golf, and then just get into that and just be disciplined to not get into thinking about baseball.
So the discipline is just unplugging your brain, go do whatever you want to do, and have a day of recouping energy, replenishing energy, and rejuvenating, the whole body energy. And that's what you do on a day off.
Yeah.
And you've done that extremely well. So when you made your debut, you got called up, and the record of the worst baseball team was happening. And it was close. And then when you finally called up, I remember going to the game on a Friday night. You didn't get in. I went on Saturday. You didn't get in. Your family came for the weekend. You didn't get in. And then you went on the road and pitched 2 innings. When you made your first inning and your second inning in your debut, because you're now an official professional baseball player in the show, what was that like when you took the mound, and where were you? Were you in Detroit? Where were you at that time?
Anaheim.
You were in Anaheim.
Against the Angels.
What inning was it? How'd you feel? Did you know you were going in?
It was the 8th, I believe. Yeah, it was the 8th inning. I
Was the
Didn't
team
know.
losing or winning at that time?
We were losing. I didn't know that I was going in. I had an idea that maybe I was going in, but I had an idea the whole week that maybe I was going in. So, like, not really. And, I had a ton of adrenaline. I was jacked up, trying to just stay really relaxed as I could, but, energy flowing like crazy. And I could feel that definitely when I got out to the game mound and I was throwing my warm-up pitches. I was, juiced up. So,
Jacked up.
yeah. And then, I was just trying to go pitch to pitch, one pitch at a time. Felt like I was moving crazy fast, all the adrenaline and a little out of control, but just one pitch at a time. And, I was able to get through two.
That wasn't the debut you visualized, was it?
It was not. It was not the debut I visualized. I never thought I would be coming out of the pen in my debut, although guys do that late in the year. But, yeah, it wasn't what I visualized, but, we're in the show, and it's
You're in the show. You're a professional baseball player at the highest level. And so, Jake, there's a lot of young guys on the White Sox. There's a ton of young pitchers. There's some young hitters. So there's probably a need for some vets in the lineup and on both sides of the ball. But are you fired up about turning the south side of Chicago, the mindset of all of it? Because I've been following the White Sox, coaching Frank Thomas, his whole career, Robin Ventura, all these great White Sox teams that I've been a part of, and now here you are. Are you fired up about being able to turn that around with some of the young guys you have on your team? Tell me how you feel going into 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really good about it. I feel great. I mean, obviously, the results of 2024 are what they were, and people aren't happy about it and all that, and I get it. But I think that looking forward, we've got a bunch of young guys that are really good, and a lot of young pitchers that are really good. And I think that going into 2025, we have a new opportunity to come out and change the energy and change the the environment in the stadium and win games, and I think that's gonna can just kind of start a roll for the White Sox.
To be able to make a culture change. This is a culture change. I mean, I was at 2 weekends to see you play at home, and you didn't get in. But there are only 12,000 people in the stands, 14,001. There was a Hispanic night that drew a few more people, but it's a pretty empty place, pretty dire straits. But I'm excited for you. You don't feel you were a part of that worst team in the world, do you? Or do you?
I don't just never think about it like that. Haven't thought about it like that. I'm just looking forward to making an impact in 2025.
Jake, I think that's the only way. You do one other thing that I think everybody watching and listening. You apply the B to A principle. That means reverse engineer. And we've done that. So you're going to report next year in Arizona, White Sox spring training, somewhere around Valentine's Day, February 12th, 13th. You might get there a little bit early, but officially pitchers are going to arrive about right that time. How do you want to be mentally at that time? Do you want to have ways to work your way through spring training, or do you feel you need to hit the ground running at your best? How do you feel, reverse engineer? Who do you want to be that day?
I feel that I want to take some of the things that I was working on at the end of the year, implement them, right away. Take this off season, get everything ironed out exactly how I want it, and be 100% ready to go going into the first day of spring training, and I will be, and that's how I feel.
So we're not going to give all the details, but to reverse engineer it, you want to be ready to go, full bore, mid-February, and then February 1, you're also want to be ready, but you're making a transition to travel out to the desert, get housing and all of that. Then you've got January where you're going to be pitching off the mound, which you're not doing now. And you're going to work on your mound work in January. December, you'll be working on individual pitches. You'll be doing some flat work off the mound, maybe a little bit on the mound. That's December. And then November, which is right around the corner, that's probably getting back into the physical and technical side of the game, and then to where you are right now. Which one is leading right now? Your physical readiness, your technical readiness, or your mental prowess and readiness?
I mean, I think that my mental readiness is always pretty much on point because we're always working on it. Physically, technically, I feel I'm in a really good spot. You know, I've taken a little bit of a break here for a few weeks, so physically, like, you know, it'll bounce back, you know, really quick because I always have treated my body the right way and know how to, you know, do that stuff. So that'll bounce back quick. And, you know, there's basically one technical adjustment that kind of I implemented with our pitching coach in Chicago, you know, when I was there for those last 2 weeks. And I've been visualizing that a little bit every day, keeping it fresh in my mind. And I think that, you know, it's going to be pretty efficient for me to kind of slide right back into that spot exactly where I want to be.
And I know the fans on the south side of Chicago are looking forward to seeing you on the south side on the mound, which no one's seen you pitch there before because you haven't. That's exciting. But let's just talk about Chi-Town. Let's talk about Chicago. I've lived here for 40-some years. We're starving for a champion in Chicago, and that's Bulls, Bears, White Sox. That's pretty much everybody's sky. You know, we haven't been on a winning streak here in Chicago for a lot of our sports. So, but tell me your experience with Chicago and what you like about Chicago and how far you are to be in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 weeks that I lived there, you know, basically during the last part of the season, you know, I really like the city. I like our stadium a lot. You know, I got a chance to go downtown with you and on my own, and just walk around and, you know, walk by the lake and see everything. To me, it's one of the coolest cities that I've been to. And then, you know, when you get some winning going, I think that it'll be an electric atmosphere in the stadium. So I'm pretty pumped up for that.
Yeah, I'm pumped up. I think the fans of the White Sox, and who knows, you may get a few Cub fans that want to come over and watch Jake pitch on the south side also. That'll be fun to have you pitch in the crosstown rivalry, which is a big deal in Chicago. And put some winning back on the south side, baby. We need some victories. We've already set the worst record. Now we should do the opposite. Let's see what the best record is. And it'd be great to see Chi-Town with a 100-win season. Wouldn't that be something special? But I think you have the ability, you have the mental ability to kind of do what the Mets are doing right now. No one thought they could win. They were the losers April, May, and all of a sudden it's magic. And that was turned around mentally. And Jake, you and you of the other young players on the team have a chance to do that. Anything you want to say to the Southside fans? Tell them right now. Look them right in the eye.
Yeah, I get fired up for 2025. We got good young guys coming, and I think it's something to be fired up about.
Well, we're going to love you here. I can't wait to see you back on the South Side. And Jake, it's going to be a great off season, and I'll know you'll be ready to ball in 2025. Thanks for being on Living with the Zone. Thanks for being on Living in the Zone.
Thank you for having me. I had fun, enjoyed it as always.
Next,
yeah.
Thanks for watching or listening to Living in the Zone podcast. Make sure that you subscribe so you can be up to date on all of our information and content. Go to ZoneCoach.com where you're going to learn more on how we can help you live your life, business, or sport in the zone.